Enrollment logic system of world's top university. Nearly 100,000 people apply for Harvard every year, and applicants compete just 1,200 to 1,300 places. Therefore, the admission screening system created by Harvard Admission Committee Chairman is used by many of the world's top universities, and the admission policy created by Wilbur Band is still used. Preliminary first preliminary screening docket system, which is a label method. The general staff of admission office first quickly classify all applicants into 22 categories. For example, docket S, comprising the public schools of metropolitan New York City, metropolitan Philadelphia, and New Jersey. Docket B would cover 8 Rocky Mountain states. Applicants from the upper Midwest, Docket D cover North and South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Besides the region which candidates come from, the admission committee also consider like citizenship, race, legacy status, recruited athlete status, economic social status. The docket system was strictly speaking a quota system, strictly limited the enrollment number of each group. The structure of this system ensured the competition would be almost entirely within rather than between dockets. A second system of classification rated each applicant individually among 3 dimensions: personal, academic, extracurriculum activities. A sense of how subjective a process it was is provided by Harvard Reading Code Guide for the class 2022. The guidelines given to the admission officers. Every candidate was to be assigned a personal rating from 1 high to 6 low. The enrollment program design puts non-academic ability personality first. Students who often apply to the world's top university have similar academic ability, means all students with high academic scores. Only in the scores of personality can finally decide who is admitted. On personal characteristics, for a student to receive a 1, for example, he must be considered top in all respects. A 2, if he was very appealing and usually forceful, effective, or whatever. A candidate who is generally not appealing and whose negative characteristics outweigh positives once receive a 5, and one who gives a personal poor expression and seems to be unstable or evasive is assigned a 6. According to the Harvard-owned statistical studies, the personal rating was a stronger predictor of which candidates would ultimately be admitted than the more objective academic rating. This subjectivity was one of the great assets of personal rating, for it permitted admission officers to exercise the discretion they valued so highly. The discretion. This is not a virtuous recruitment strategy. Pay more attention to the intangible quality personality. The purpose is to safeguard the interest of existing elite class and to find an excuse for recruiting the children of donors, which called independent enrollment. Of course, Yale's personality is more detailed, 1 to 9 points, 1 highest score, 9 lowest score. Harvard admission chairman Banner said that an admission model that relied too heavily on intellect would deter Harvard from men of affairs in business and politics, and thereby reduce Harvard's impact on the world. Whether in Yale or other world's top university, the so-called personality and leadership are actually a guise, excuse, preferential policy for donors of specific economic status and leaders of political status. One might say, isn't that everyone has equal opportunity? Everyone who works hard and study hard enough can make the American dream come true? The story poor child go to Harvard had been made into movies. Yale University President Brewster concluded that only a vibrant belief in the age-old American proposition that everyone, no matter how humble the circumstances of his or her birth, had a chance to rise to the top could legitimate the increasingly visible gap between rich and poor in the United States. Otherwise, if the poor think that no matter how hard they try, they cannot move to the higher class, they will rebel without any hope, overturn the existing hierarchy social order, and the status of existing rich class will waver. The much-hyped egalitarianism, opportunities, and inclusiveness are guides to consolidate the existing rich class. Of course, a small number of poor kids will enter the water-stopping schools and even make inspirational films aiming to undermine the potential leadership of the working class. In fact, most qualified students in the slums cannot enter the upper class, but they will say it's not we have no opportunity. It's our own fault. We don't have enough ability to seize opportunities. Under the limited enrollment, recruit part of no background but qualified intelligent students, and preferential minorities is bound to reduce the original rich privileged children admission. So although sacrifice the interest of some rich, but keep the whole rich class does not waver. And more rich families realize donation is the most important for admission. The price rises. The more rich families join in to compete a limited number of places. No rich man wants to be sacrificed in the group, so they are also varied. Competition, rat race in the international committee is intensifying, and the same anxiety occurs in the privileged class. More anxiety equal than equal opportunity.